Okay, so one thing we want to make very, very clear at this conference today is that this is not an attempt to shut down the mine. As I've mentioned before, pretty much everyone in this room uses the commodities produced out of this mine in some capacity or another. The mine is providing very important commodities for the world. However, what we are asking is that Rio Tinto just pay the true cost of doing business. That's all we ask. What's happening is Rio Tinto is making $15 billion in profit. A large part of that, unfortunately, is due to the fact that they are externalizing the cost of doing their business on the citizens of Utah. And while polluting in this country, if you have a permit, is legal, in many instances, it's certainly not ethical and it's not moral. Why should Rio Tinto end up with for their shareholders earning a $15 billion profit when some of those costs are being borne by us here in Utah? You know, can't they make $13 billion or $14 billion and do the right thing for the citizens of Utah? So, which brings me to the point that air pollution really is a moral issue. Because most of us in this room here do not benefit directly from the operations of the mine. Yet every single one of us in here have to pay the price of the air pollution that they generate. And that's not fair. It's not moral and it's not ethical to impose costs onto innocent bystanders. And ultimately, when I brought up the externality argument, I have to say, as I said earlier, they are very nervous. They do not like that to be brought up because, in a way, an externality at some point is going to be a liability. Because at some point down the line, they're going to get sued for externalizing the cost of doing their business on innocent others. The children of Utah, the elderly of Utah, people with heart conditions, actually all of us. And we are arguing in this lawsuit, actually, that that time has come. In Indonesia, the general manager of the Rio Tinto plant is well known, he was well known at the time, to be raping the village women on a regular basis. And the police in the area just turned a blind eye because, of course, they were being paid off. Additionally, there was a case where Rio Tinto wanted to mine on some land that villagers were living on, and the villagers, of course, did not want to move. So what did Rio Tinto do? They went and razed the village. And this is all documented. So what I learned is, here in Utah, that they would never get away with that. They could never raze a village. They could not raise Magna because they wanted to expand their mine and just tell everyone, sorry, you're going to have to go relocate, we're going to burn down your houses, and we're going to mine here. That absolutely would not happen here. Additionally, if the general manager of Rio Tinto was raping the women of Magna or Salt Lake City on a regular basis, that would not continue. So what I learned is that wherever we set the bar is what they will comply with. So the reason why we're a best case scenario is because our bar has been set here. Not here like it is in Indonesia where there's so much corruption. But what we're arguing in this lawsuit is why are we leaving the bar here when we can have the bar here? And it's up to us, which is why we're filing this lawsuit, it's up to us to declare where that bar is, not Rio Tinto. If we let them declare it, then we are going to be in a situation like Indonesia. So obviously that's not where, as a society, we've decided that that's okay. But it's still, for most of us in this room, the level of air pollution that they're emitting, they're contributing about 30% of the air pollution in this valley, is unacceptable. So we need to take this bar here and move it up to here. And Rio Tinto can't move their mine. What they want to mine is in the land right here. That mine's not going anywhere. Okay? So in many ways, we've got him by the balls, if you don't mind me saying so. So we need to force that bar to be up higher, and that's what we're doing with this lawsuit. One of the arguments that Rio Tinto makes about why it's so important that we allow them to mine here is that they provide so many jobs. Well, Utah Moms for Clean Air and the physicians argue that, wow, Rio Tinto, you can mine here and provide jobs and also clean air, okay? Those are not contradictory. But they still like to argue that they provide so many jobs. So they're not even in the top 44 employers in the state. And if you were actually to look per job that they actually are on their payroll, and then how much pollution they emit as a whole, and then divide that, each job that they provide to Utahns emits 14,500 pounds of air pollution. So that's far, far more than any other employer in the valley. This again is an externality. So for the people who are getting jobs at Rio Tinto, they're also in a way externalizing the cost of their employment onto the people of Utah, because each one of those jobs is costing 14,500 pounds of pollution. They employ less than 2,000 people, less than 1% of the people in our valley, less than the Sizzler steakhouses. And yet they produce 30% of the particulate emissions. Does that seem fair? No. We've actually had other polluters in the valley come to us and complain that they can't get their permits because Rio Tinto's hogging all the pollution permits in the area. So we've actually had the polluters come and complain to us. So yeah, you can just see here about how disproportionate the pollution that Rio Tinto is creating for one company. The yellow here is Kennecott, and then the green slice is Chevron, who, as we all know, is also a major polluter in our valley. So you can see that's a big chunk of the pie.